Welcome to the Stories Are Soul Food podcast, presented by Cannonball Books, the kids' fiction imprint of Cannon Press.
Met a ghost of a king on the road when I first fell. Fire burning to my knees I fell. Met a ghost of a king on the road.
Action!
Episode 97.
Oh, good job. Well done, you.
Checked ahead of time.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 100 minus 3.
Yeah.
Here we are. Everybody knows that 100 minus 3 is the most momentous episode of all. I find it truly ludicrous that we've done this 97 times, or will have.
So many times.
Or that we will have done this 97 times.
Well, we've started.
How are we
podcast.
not out of things to talk about?
Well,
I mean, I am. What are we talking about today, Brian?
The listeners will be happy to know that Nate couldn't remember what we talked about last episode a mere 3 days later. So I think, what if we're actually repeating ourselves and you don't know it?
That is highly likely.
Yeah. Well, the question that we have today is about the Grinch. I mean, okay. And so the question is sent by a listener, Seth, said, "Why do I like the Grinch so much? If I'm not supposed to, if he's a bad person, why do I like him before his transformation, before his heart?" Because
he's funny.
Yeah, that's a very simple answer.
I mean, and that has been episode 97.
It's a wrap.
Because it's good storytelling, and you always should understand and like a character, especially one who's going to be redeemed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is there an element of it that the Who's kind of seem, I don't know. No one likes the Who's down in Whoville, right?
You don't need to.
Why not?
Why would you?
Well, I mean, because you're supposed to
it's not their story.
It's the Grinch's story.
Yeah.
Well, no, because they're the good guys.
No, they're not.
Oh, weird. Okay, let's here's an episode for us.
Yeah, well,
I guess Cindy Lou Who, I'd be willing to grant. Not even she. No one likes Cindy Lou Who is not more than 2.
She was epic, but she's great. They're all great side characters. They're great. They're a great world. They're a great situation, but you don't know them.
Okay.
The way you know the
Interesting.
Grinch. The Grinch is the one on a journey.
So they have zero characterization. They're just a prop, sort of.
They're just Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim is,
a
trope completely. They're over there, and the story is the Grinch's story.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to like the Grinch. You're supposed to journey with the Grinch on this path of redemption.
Okay.
You're supposed to connect with him,
mm-hmm.
understand him, sympathize with him.
Yeah.
Still see how he needs redemption, and then see him get that redemption.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Done.
That's pretty easy. I mean, even his dog, we kind of sympathize with his dog.
Yeah, the dog's perfect.
Max with his horn tied on top.
So what's next? What's the next question, Brian?
Well, I guess I wanted.
We talking about Christmas in general. What are we covering?
Well, I was going to ask you a couple questions about, Christmas Carol and just go Christmas in general.
Yeah. Okay. See if we can keep it cheerful.
Yeah.
I hear rumors that I've been dark recently. So we'll see if we can.
It was a dark time of year.
We'll see if we can keep it cheerful.
Yeah. Christmas Carol, I guess Tiny Tim, he is a trope. We don't feel too bad when Tiny Tim has.
Have you watched Spirited on Apple?
No. What's Spirited?
It's a moving picture show starring Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds in the first truly unique subversion of A Christmas Carol that I've ever seen.
Okay. It's that good, huh?
No.
It's just interesting.
It's a truly unique subversion. I like that.
Okay.
Let me.
We might need to talk about subversion here.
We'll talk about subversion. We'll talk about some other things, but
okay.
I drink eggnog once a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not something I drink in August. It's not something I'm interested in drinking any other time.
Right.
Just because I can, and because you've warned me, I'll say that I have my daughter mixes me a little bourbon and a little eggnog and brings it to me.
Yeah.
By the fire, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
For those of you out there in the world, bourbon is not beer. It's different.
There was some slight confusion. It's way better than beer. So
I don't drink beer.
That should address all your concerns.
I don't drink beer. And let me also just say for everybody listening, I've never been drunk in my life, just in case we're worried. I'm quite pious. But where were we?
We're talking about eggnog.
Where
once a
were
year.
we? Yeah. So then there's Christmas movies and things that are cheesy, things that are fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch Christmas movies once a year. That's obviously the only time. And I'm not going to watch them all every time.
Right.
It's like, but there's just different Christmas movies. I think it's pretty fun. This is a Christmas movie. It is a musical, which is another thing I don't watch. And
weird.
Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds doing big musical numbers, some amazing ones.
It's called Spirited.
And the concept is that Scrooge, Will Ferrell, is now working with the ghosts of Christmas Present, Past, Future. He's now on that crew. So he's now on the crew.
Okay.
And they have found their next target to try to attempt redemption. And it's Ryan Reynolds.
A tough nut to crack.
Yeah. And it's so there you go. It's like, okay, that right there, tough nut to crack. Okay, that's not that difficult. But what ends up happening, and this spoiler, don't listen if you really care about a particular musical Christmas movie, whatever.
If the plot's this important.
Yeah. The whole concept is the deconversion of Scrooge. That Ryan Reynolds is too tough. And so it's, breaking down Scrooge, who's now the ghost of Christmas Present. And
he can't.
And it's going the other direction. Like Ryan Reynolds is so tough and so funny and so jaded as a marketing executive that he is having this negative effect on Scrooge.
Who's good now?
Who's good and who's working with the Christmas ghosts.
Yeah.
So, and then lace in big musical numbers and lots of funniness and then some Christmas sentimentality and some other stuff. And it was an unexpectedly funny watch.
Yeah.
And yeah, tons of flaws, plenty, whatever. They sang. I mentioned that.
Yeah.
But it's striking. And the thing that was striking about it was that it played with the architecture of the Christmas Carol.
Right.
And
that's the only
that it
movie.
played with that architecture and then was pushing it the other direction. And basically Ryan Reynolds, the concept is that the team, you have redeemables and you have unredeemable. They don't even try with these people who are unredeemable. And so Ryan Reynolds is unredeemable, but Will Ferrell desperately wants to target him anyway, because the last unredeemable that they successfully targeted was Scrooge. So he was the last, like, quote unquote, alleged unredeemable. And he's worried that he wasn't actually changed. So he has this like nagging insecurity that he never actually changed. And so he wants to see another unredeemable actually change. And he's worried about this because he died so shortly after his conversion. It's like his quote unquote Christmas conversion.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty, I VidAngeled it and watched it with my kids. There were some things to filter out, but it was pretty easy.
Okay. What were, following our Grinch roles, what made Ryan Reynolds likable? Like, as such a jaded character, what were his Grinch-like aspects? Was he clever?
No, wit, like
that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, no, he's clever. He's very, very funny, very quick, and even being a tough nut is easy to relate to. Or like,
right,
that he's refusing this sentimental stuff, and he's also seen through the weird sentimentality of this particular approach.
Yeah.
So
because there's a part of everyone who's really annoyed by Tiny Tim.
Tiny Tim,
when he says
the worst.
God bless us, everyone, and we think, don't make us
get your fingernails off the chalkboard.
don't make us want you to die.
Yeah. True confessions. This is something I actually have friends whom I respect who disagree with me profoundly, but I struggle with It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
For the same reason. There's a lot that's great about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot. I love Clarence. There's a lot that's good, but the every time a bell rings thing, like just that.
So it's not so much the track of him having to learn and his failure of his life. So George, that's the name, right? Is fine. It's the cutesy.
It's the cutesy destination is where I'm just like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to go. And that's the same thing with Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
God bless us. And I was like, go die.
Yeah.
Like the flesh responds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's too much Norse blood somewhere back there in me or something.
Well, I know what the problem is. It's that you prefer your angels fiery and with 6 wings rather than like ding ding.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Yeah.
Although Clarence is great.
Yeah.
So
it's funny.
But the sentimentality that creeps in, like a Christmas movie for me, the ideal Christmas movie is it's got to have humor. And again, I add the asterisk to everything here of like how much I filter.
Yeah.
Like I filter and edit things all the time. But like you see sentimentality and then you see honesty. And whenever you see honesty that's funny.
I mean, that's why Elf works, right?
Yeah.
We
it can be funny, but it shows you something true. Yeah. And then the wheels come off of Elf at the end. You know, it's like it sucks really, really badly, but it's got so much greatness along the way. The holiday.
Right. Same thing with Elf, like that part where they all start singing to make the sleigh fly. Yeah. You know, same sort of level.
Stop
just
it.
Oh, come on.
So heavily filtered. I actually really like the holiday. Mm-hmm. As a think piece, you know, like something to process, different characters to process. I like, again, these are the things where I'm like heavily filtered. Just remember, these are PG versions. Love Actually, what it does in terms of studying characters, even though it has an incoherent perspective of the world, like the way it breaks down characters is really interesting, and it does something unique there. Then they prove they suck at that, and because they then failed, you know, with their follow-ups. But there's insight there. One of the things that I really like in Love Actually is the Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson narrative, where he gives in to flirtation. Like he gives in to flirtation. He's not committed to adultery. He's got this skank of a secretary, new horrible woman that he should have just fired and moved on from. And she is, you know, relentless and demanding that he buy her a present, you know, and he, being a weak man, does. But he's a weak man towards his wife, and she's demanding certain things, and he's not, you know, like he's steerable. But now he's got this other woman in his workplace who's demanding that he buy her something, so he buys her something. And in buying her something, he ruins his life. Like, and he does not have an affair. Does not, like, he bought the woman a necklace, and a 200-pound necklace, and it ruins his life. And that is like, that was great.
Yeah.
Like that's
an interesting.
Yeah. Like setup. That's really interesting. It's true. Like it's telling the truth about that. Then you jump into another thread. The one that's most commonly mocked in Love Actually is the Keira Knightley thread. Where you have, whatever his name is. I don't remember, the guy from The Walking Dead.
Zombie hunter
shows up and like has the cards, like the faux Christmas Carol moment, has the cards. It's like, I love you, yada, yada, yada. When she just married his best friend. Like, so the film shows one guy ruin his life from having like just bought a woman something who's not his wife. And it should have ruined his life. It did ruin his life. That was the way it was going to go. And this other guy is doing worse than that.
Yeah. Stealing his friends.
Yeah. He's going to profess his love to his best friend's new bride. Like much worse. And the film just kind of, isn't that sweet to just give into your love? Like, no, you just showed us the other one, how giving into this destroys things.
Well, that's because it's Snape, right? We're fine seeing Snape fail.
Emma Thompson's great. So if you strip out whole threads, there are whole threads there you have to edit out. So it's like that's one that gets like 20 minutes shorter, you know, when you edit it. But there are interesting character studies there. And then you jump over to Holiday, and there's interesting character work there. Same thing, you have to strip out whole big chunks. But once they're stripped out, you're left with something that's interesting. You know, the study of how people hang on to each other and why the good ones have so much trouble. And Jack Black is just fantastic in that. I'm a sucker for Jack Black. So But you
Ever
meander
since-
through
yeah.
and you get to the ultimate best Christmas movie that there is, which is Die Hard.
Okay, I thought we were
And-
gonna. Was wondering if we're gonna.
Yeah,
get
it's like
here.
that's where we land. And this is because it eschews like all of that sentimentality. Like there's none of that. Like there's just
Nate's rubric for
there's
Christmas
just
movies.
no sentimentality whatsoever. And it is in fact a fantastic Christmas movie. And add one more asterisk, filtered.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. I think we actually might have a theological explanation, justification for why it has to include the humor, because Christmas is the greatest subversion event
Yeah.
of.
And we should, so subversion also is when you take structure, you take architecture, you take a pattern of expectation, and then you flip it.
Mhm.
So it can be done incorrectly. It can be done badly.
Yeah.
Like anything can be. But when you subvert expectations, when you go down a particular pattern, like I'm building this kind of a house, and then you've done something new and unexpected, like somehow, usually basically upside down.
Yeah.
A little bit upside down.
Well, yeah. The problem, I think, I don't like that postmoderns get this idea that they created subversion or
Yeah.
something like that. This idea that just because you're telling a story about a heroic character who ends up being the bad guy, say in, what the Elsa movie, where the main hero, shows up and in Frozen, the main hero shows up and turns out to be a bad guy. That's classic example of subversion.
Yep.
That's super lazy.
Yeah, it is very, very lazy, and done correctly. Subversion is, I feel like I'm bastardizing the Chesterton quote here, but it's the truth standing on its head.
Mm.
When the truth stands on its head to get attention, like that's, like you've moved around somebody's calluses, where you've just worn calluses and you enable them to see something that they would not have seen. They see it in a new way.
Yeah.
And they would have missed it. And it's still the truth. Done incorrectly, you're saying the truth is stupid. Done incorrectly, it's perversion, not subversion.
Right. That's a good distinction, because postmoderns love to flip everything and say, how do you know which one is true?
They want to pervert good and pervert evil, and they want you to align your sympathies with evil and have that not be the arc of redemption.
Right.
Like there is no arc of redemption. They're just,
or they're saying it's fine if you want to read it that way, but the other way you could read it as just as viable.
Yeah.
Like the ones that I've read.
How do you know? How do you know? How
Right.
do you know? It's like and you can't possibly judge, and you can't.
Yeah.
fill in the
They're
blank.
happy with finding any binary and then flipping it.
Yeah.
And then, so the one we typically think is good, or, we find male, female as a strong, weak dynamic. And so we're going to flip it and make the female dynamic the strong one and the male the weak
So
one.
good subversion would be Jojo Rabbit, and bad subversion would be somebody trying to make a movie in which Hitler was the hero. And even the postmoderns don't have the nerve to do that.
Yeah, they don't. I was going to say they don't.
Like they don't have the nerve to do that, but they should have the nerve to be able to do that
if they actually have the conviction of their belief.
But
then,
they don't. So Jojo Rabbit's great subversion.
Mm.
It's like it really is, and it enables you in a very weird way to see the petty humanity of Germany, Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to be realism, but it's a reminder of like this poor stupid fat child in his paper uniform. It's like it's amazing.
Watching through the eyes of a child, but not in some what's the other famous war movie? Life is Beautiful.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where you do kind of see World War II through the point of view of a child, but a very serious way.
Yeah.
And they both end similarly with
Life is Beautiful is also a great film.
Yeah, with parents dying.
Mhm.
But you're watching them entirely different. I don't know. What's the distinction there? I guess Life is Beautiful is not subverting anything. They're just telling you a true story.
Life is Beautiful is perspectival.
Yeah.
So it's this child perspective. And so you get to, because you are an adult watching, like it's a subversion of a perspective, and that's about it. So you're an adult watching a child in a camp, in a Nazi camp.
Yeah.
And with his dad, and you see his dad being silly and goofy and funny, and he's doing those things. You see that as an adult looking through the glasses of a child. And so you see like the incredible courage that it took for him to do that.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to protect his son from realizing the depth of the evil here.
Right.
Like how bad this is. And so he goes to his grave silly walking.
Yeah.
Like he dies for his son and dies, doing it that way. Now, if you were a kid watching that, you don't know the heaviness of that. But because you're an adult getting into that kid lens, seeing the adult behavior, but still having the information from your own adulthood.
Right.
It makes it this really, really strong.
Yeah.
Now, then all the way to the end, when the American tank, one of my favorite moment, the American tank rolls up and this very cliche bubblegum ad American pops out of the head. It's back to that kid perspective. Like, this is a cartoon American.
Yeah.
He gets up and he's got this amazing white smile. He pops out of the top of the tank and smiles, and there's actually like a ding sparkle on his tooth as he looks down at this boy he's rescuing and says, "Hey, little boy," or something like, it's like, it's this, this childish perspective on the whole thing. So it's a subversion of adult perspective, flipping that upside down and making us watch the courage of a father from the eyes of a kid who doesn't realize how courageous his dad's being.
Yeah.
Like that.
It almost hides it because it's really interesting to play around what would happen with that story if you just tried to tell it straight up from the dad's perspective.
It'd be
brutal.
Yeah, it would just be impossible. It'd be so grim. There's not an arc to it. There's just him drowning slowly, holding his son above the water. That's what he's doing. So allowing
the kid to look back and say, "This is how my dad saved my life."
Yeah.
All of a sudden that becomes,
it's the right lens for the narrative. And so you bounce JoJo's and is subversion. Life is Beautiful is a perspectival flip, not true subversion. But the difference between perversion and subversion is important. When somebody just looks at something good and says, "I'm going to bend and break this. I'm going to just do the opposite because I can." And I want people to understand that these categories are false or temporary or whatever. It's a very epistemic philosophical rebellion versus when somebody says, "Hey, let's flip this on its head." You're like, let's do this. So I have a concept. One of the first concepts I ever sold was an animated film concept called The Deadlies, about the 7 deadly sins as a family. And Sloth is this morbidly obese teenage boy who's not even allowed to have pencils, because they don't want him like drawing or, video games are too much mental. There's too much mental work. So he's just has to be a beanbag. He's required to just ooze sloth into this whole neighborhood where they live. They have to be these bad influences. And then this boy starts sneaking out at night and gets a paper route early in the morning.
Is Sloth the main character?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he starts rebelling. He goes through his teenage rebellion. He's losing weight. His parents can't figure it out. Like he's, it's like it's all this, and that's an example of subversion where it's like, okay, so he's going to rebel from vice into virtue.
Yeah.
We're going to tell a story of teenage rebellion that's a rebellion out of vice into virtue. Like, okay, that enables you to see the truth by flipping it, like flipping some architecture on its head. But if I tried to tell a story about how laziness is just as good as diligence, then that's perversion. Like I'm going to try to pervert the truth versus subvert it so you can see it.
I'm pretty sure they do that all the time.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a regular trope.
Yeah. And so big arguments happen around shows like Breaking Bad, because is this just nihilism? Is it just postmodern storytelling, or is it subversion?
Yeah.
Is there value here?
In our camp, that's what they say. They say it's just showing us how a bad guy gets worse and worse. And so it's valid.
However many seasons? 9 seasons?
5, I think.
32 seasons?
Yeah. 97 seasons.
Yeah. At what point did you not get it? So what the world needs today is this cautionary tale of a chemistry teacher who makes meth so that other chemistry teachers don't do that.
But he thinks he's going to die, Nate.
It makes it okay.
It makes it okay.
It makes it all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's anyway.
You just watch him being brutal to people.
Yeah.
I know our listeners want us to come back to Die Hard because there's plenty out there saying, what? Why is it a Christmas movie?
Not being on social media in any meaningful way. I, of course, am aware that there's the perennial fight about Die Hard being a Christmas movie. But it's just not even a discussion. I don't understand.
I mean, there's Santa in it. He raps, ho, ho, ho.
There's Christmas music.
There's Christmas music. There's lights.
So what would be the key components of a Christmas movie that Die Hard is missing?
Well, I think more it's just the fact that there's extreme violence and language spread throughout it.
But when did that make the the little checklist for whether something's a Christmas movie?
Here, you're going to take us back to Luke and say the gospel story.
Yeah, here we are.
Extreme violence.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really curious.
I don't know. I mean, I think it.
Can you represent this position well?
I actually can't because it seems like it's trying to be a Christmas movie.
Can anybody? I know Bruce Willis says it's not, but who cares?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with it?
Yeah. What does he mean? I assume he's just thinking nostalgia back to the movies he watched when
so
he was a kid.
If you say there's violence and there's bad language and that's why it's not a Christmas movie, it's like, okay.
I mean, it's a movie about a hostage situation. So I think most people are like, why would that be a Christmas movie? A Christmas movie is about Scrooge learning that the heart of Christmas is giving.
Okay. So it's a story about a homecoming, like the reunion of a family. It's a separated family being reunited at Christmas. That's how it starts.
Yeah.
And then you have something really bad that happens. And not only do you have Christmas music, you have everything else, but you have a husband who learns, he already in some ways knew this, but a husband who truly, in a messianic way, sacrifices himself. Like he goes for it, sacrificing himself all the way up to and including damaging his feet and doing it. He does this in a way that causes his wife, who had resented and kind of hated his stubbornness, his masculinity. She changes in that, weirdly, she changes in understanding and realizing that there's security in that.
She comes to recognize that his gifts are actually a gift.
Yeah.
She just had never been in a situation where you needed Bruce Willis.
Yeah. You didn't need John McClane.
Yeah.
Wasn't Bruce, it was John.
Sorry, John.
Suddenly she is in the worst situation in her life. And her greatest reassurance that she has is that her man is just unbreakable.
Yeah.
That Proverbs 24:16, like that man's going to keep rising up over and over and over again, like the undead. He will not stay down.
Each season of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Yet another one.
Yeah. And so when she actually sees one of the terrorists like losing his mind, she has her first moment of like hope and smile. And she says only John could drive somebody that,
right.
That crazy.
And the coke snorting guy who is contrasted with John. Yep. You see them. I think that element is a good element of Christmas movies where you see the real importance of a character. Like that switch right there seems key to a Christmas movie because there's something on the surface and there's always something underneath.
So you have a mom and, and the kids take off and they leave and she drops her husband's name and he's coming out for Christmas to reunite his family.
Bear.
Well, to reunite his family. And he's not confident. He doesn't know what's going on, but he's coming out for Christmas to reunite his family. And we end with her having reassumed his name.
Oh, does she? I guess I can.
It's like
that. They ruined that in the second movie, but that's because they had to do a second one.
Yeah, but it's like it's actually the family's restored. Her relationship with her husband is restored. His relationship with her, is restored.
I think that's the final argument then, right? It's happening at Christmas time. He's coming home to fix a broken relationship. Yeah.
The fact that he has to shoot a lot of people, I'm not sure why that would disqualify it. So, it's the art. I also, as a side note, this is just in general. I don't like arguments about ontology or ontological status. Like, is that art?
That's a big difference between Nate and I. I enjoy the pedantry of an ontological discussion.
So when somebody's like, is it art? When a Danish guy, if it was a Danish guy, I don't remember, poops in a can and seals it. And
is that Proust?
Is that art? And I'm more inclined just to say it's, bad art.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get, like, what is the victory in arguing that it's not art? It's much better to argue that it's moronic.
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather, maintain its stupidity.
Yeah.
Than its non-artiness.
Although he's been willing to go to bat for this being a Christmas movie. Though.
Yeah.
So,
but that's also like, I don't understand exclusion that way. So,
right.
It's like, why is that the big win? Is Die Hard a great movie or not a great movie? It's set at Christmas. It's this family restoration. Yeah, it's hyper violent. You can criticize it for that, but trying to make it not a Christmas movie is interesting. Now, is Logan a Western? It's like when you
right.
Yeah. So there are Western aspects of this film. There's Western. Mangold is bringing in these lot of different Western pieces there.
Yeah.
But is that ultimately what matters? Isn't the more important thing? Is it a good film? Is it a good story? Should it have been told differently? Is there a better way to construct it? Not is there a more genre specific way to construct it, but is there a better way to construct it?
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's helpful. Have you watched Klaus?
Yeah.
That's one we've been watching pretty regularly.
It's
a fun one.
Like that one. It is. Yeah. It is fun.
I was trying to think the elements of subversion there. Again, it uses violence, like the extreme violence of a town at war. The Romeo or Capulet Montague.
Yeah, Klaus is funny.
Yeah.
But I do think that Die Hard's probably my number one Christmas movie.
Okay.
Most likely is. I weirdly like Trapped in Paradise too. Trapped in Paradise is funny.
I don't know that I've seen it.
Nick Cage, man. Nick Cage.
Okay.
John Lovitz. Oh, trying to remember who else is the other little idiot in that film. Oh, I don't remember. But yeah, it's a bizarre one.
I'm thinking most people when they think Christmas movie, they have an affection for the Hallmark, the regular Hallmark that comes out at Christmas time. Christy and I just watched one. We gutted our way through it.
Oh gosh. This is like, there's some people who love taking hits off of whipped cream can. Isn't that called a whippet? like
I don't know.
No, whippets are laughing gas. So whippets, I don't know my illicit drug use slang, but
yet again, we qualify. Whiskey is the only thing we talk about.
But yeah, I just don't understand when people are like, now 'tis the season for me to just get the whipped cream straight from the can, on the regular.
Yeah,
just sugar and foam. Like I don't understand why people don't want the good real stories. And I just don't. Intensity, like duress, risk, like the real stories are so compelling and so filling. Like it's like a real meal, proteins. There's a lot of proteins there. I'm not against dessert. I don't mind a little sentimentality. I already told you I watched a musical called Spirited and found it kind of funny. I mean, like like I'm not against the saccharine always. It just is infuriating that it's associated with the story of Christmas when Christmas is nothing like that. Like it just isn't.
Yeah.
What else do we need to cover, Brian?
I don't think we need to cover anything.
We did it. Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
Yep. It's our yearly reminder of that. I think we did that.
Have we done that before? Have we been doing this for so long?
I think so.
So in about 52 more episodes, you're going to get another reminder that Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
I know. We can't bring up all the Christmas movies right now because then what would we talk about at episode? Whoa.
When are we going to stop?
Yeah, that's actually the question.
When are we going to stop?
So the Grinch.
I don't know.
It's okay to like the Grinch. He's the reason.
You're supposed to.
He's the reason for the season.
The reason for that story.
Yeah. And we're done.
Yeah. And hate Tiny Tim. Love the
Yep.
Grinch. Hate Tiny Tim.
Yep.
Watch better stories. Read them too.
It's good stuff.
Cheers.
Hi, it's Brian Cole here, wanting to let you know how you can support the Stories Are Soul Food podcast. You can do that by checking out Canon Plus. Head over to mycanonplus.com. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the SASF podcast. We'll hopefully be seeing you at mycanonplus.com.